This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. Today is episode 53. New year, new number. 53, 52. Yeah, that was corny, y'all. I'm sorry. Hope everybody's doing well, especially my Dallas people. I know y'all going through it with that cold front and how cold it's been for the past 3 or 4 days. You know, I don't even want to tell the people what the temperature is up here when I talk to somebody at home, because I don't want them getting mad at me because it's nowhere near as cold as it is up there. It gets cold up here sometimes, but nothing like what the other parts of the country is experiencing. So, you know, very fortunate. And I'm not saying I chose El Paso. Like growing up, I was like, let me investigate which city and which part of the country has more fair weather. Nope. But I tell you what, when I got up here and I started understanding and the climate and the weather and how warm and cold it got, I was like, look, not only does it not get cold all the time, you'll have some cold fronts and stuff. You have some rain, you have some wind, right? So that's attractive to me as it is. But then on the other side, you know, I don't have to worry about no hurricanes. I ain't had to worry about no tornadoes. That's like the odds of those happenings are almost like winning the lottery sometimes. Really ain't had to worry about no earthquakes, although we've had a few tremors, but nothing like you'd have to worry about on that coast. So I'm loving it. I don't even need a beach. I can just, you know, simply say I'm loving the weather here. So I hope everybody's doing well. Let me get into some things that are on my mind that interest me. Okay, so first, I got to call out a legend. You know, look, when you do good, you do good. When you're you got to be accountable, I guess. If you do something well, yeah, honor that, accept it, you know, acknowledge it. You do bad, same thing. Okay. Got to call out MJ, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Like, whoa, okay, oh man, you trying to drop your viewership? Man, number one, Mike don't care much about what I say. All right, but I'm calling him out because, okay, you had a ceremony, Ring of Honor, for the Bulls, and this was I want to say last Saturday. Friday, one of those days, they were playing Golden State. Golden State was in town. So they did the Ring of Honor ceremony. They were honoring a lot of the, you know, Bulls. Now, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan were two that weren't there. I don't remember. I can't remember. I think Phil Jackson was there. Now, here's the thing. Jerry Krause was the GM back then during the Bulls run. Okay. And, you know, GM, star player, didn't get along. GM wanted to keep moving, you know, keep the train moving, keep bringing new talent, because, look, as a businessman, he understands, like, you know, Jordan and these Bulls, they're not going to be playing for 30 years, right? You're going to have a short window, 10, you know, you could play 15 years in the league, but you're probably going to have a short window of being contenders. You always have to restock and try to get, you know, new players. So that's kind of what he was doing, and he was bumping heads with the coach. He bumped heads with the, you know, star players, and, you know, it was kind of ugly. The situation ended up ending badly, and then you had the last dance where MJ, you know, put information out there on Krause was kind of the reason that they didn't continue. And look, I'm not going to pick sides because both sides are right. You know, MJ and the Bulls was like, man, look, let us compete until somebody beat us. If we get beat, then yes. But until then, let us play. Boston didn't have one of those. They just kept going. They had 11 back during Russell's dominance. So it's not like, Auerbach said, oh, well, you know what, we got 4, we got to move on. Typically you want to keep your core players, and then you just keep trying to shuffle and stuff as possible, as needed rather. So, Last Dance, they left. After 98 Bulls championship, everything split up. I saw it from both ends. I really did, right? You could say both of them was right and both of them was wrong. If you wanna put blame, okay? How much blame you put on who? That's individual choice depending on what you hear, what you felt, and stuff. So Jerry Krause passes away in I think 2016 or 17. So he's being honored posthumously, and it's his wife who's there, to accept, the achievement for him. When they mention his name on the board, they show his picture and stuff on the board, the crowd boos. Like, it wasn't like deafening boo, but they booed loud. And then when the camera cuts to Jerry Krause's widow, I said wife, I meant widow. I'm sorry. When the camera pans to her, she's crying. And I'm like, yo, man, like, I get you're booing, but you're booing her. He's not here, number one. Now, to me, there's a lot of blame to go around. So when I say I'm calling out MJ, I'm calling him out because I never heard him come out and condone them booing her. Like, hey, yeah, look, we had our problems. We weren't on the best of terms, but, his widow, she didn't deserve that, guys. We got to be better than that. It's a time for celebration, right? It's a time for celebration. It's not a time to be upset with what happened, 20-something years ago, right? So I would love to see, and that's why I'm calling him out, because as a leader, to being who you are, your words hold weight. There's a lot of people that didn't really know and understand about him and the Bulls until the Last Dance, and now there's a new generation of kids who love Michael Jordan and they hang on his every word. I remember growing up when MJ was having issues, and I think he was. There were issues, and there was said to be some kind of rift that he was gonna be, divorcing his wife at the time, which wasn't true at that time. There was some kind of rumor going around. There were people saying, "Well, shoot, if he get rid of his wife, I think I'm gonna have to divorce her." It was crazy. The influence he had on him. Gatorade, Be Like Mike, all of that stuff. So, words are powerful, especially coming from somebody who people pay attention to. So I'm calling him out because I felt like he number one, I guess you should have been there, but I get the whole him and Scottie Pippen riff, and that they didn't want to be probably in the same place with each other. And I understand that, but you got to speak up for her. She didn't deserve it because she wasn't a GM. She wasn't there every day. She didn't have nothing to do with that. So, for her to catch those strays, it was really sad, in the Bullets. Now, second place I would put blame on was, that the crowd isn't really feeling Jerry Krause. Why not put his wife's picture up on the monitor and say, and accepting the award for Jerry Krause would be his widow, right? So now they see his wife's picture on there. They're not going to boo. And then once you do that, then you say, his accomplishments. Because I know, obviously, you say the accomplishments, then you say the person. But you could have worded it differently. Or if you're going to name him and talk about his accomplishments, put his picture on the half screen and have his wife there sitting so everybody knows that she's in attendance. some of those people might not even know she was there. They were just booing to be booing because they didn't like him and you put him on the video screen. Maybe that doesn't help. Maybe you have some people that are just going to boo even if they knew she was there, right? So it was a very sad situation, and I really think that, he should come out and say something about it. So I'm hoping he does. I'm hoping he comes out and talks about it. Okay, all right. So next thing was I watched the game last night, or some of it, and it was Denver and Philly. So it was Joker and Embiid, round one, and round one went to Embiid. Now I would have loved, from what I saw, I would have loved to have seen them guard each other more. But I do understand that, with the way they play with defenses and how they guard and all of those things, the schemes, you don't always get the best players guarding the best players. Now, to me, if you're the best player and you tell them, I'm guarding him. If I pick up 2 quick fouls or 3 quick fouls, then we'll go with that. But for right now, I'm guarding him. I know that in the past, when the best players say, no, I got him, I'm guarding him, they guard him. I remember when Steph and Kyrie met in the finals that first year, Kyrie guarded Steph. Steph tried to guard Kyrie. They both kind of had trouble guarding each other, but they guarded each other. When KD and LeBron met in the finals, KD was guarding LeBron. LeBron wasn't guarding him as much, but they matched up a lot. So I think if you're the best player, you can guard each other, right? So that was, now having said all of that, to me it didn't look like it looked like Joker would have more problems guarding Embiid than Embiid would have guarding, Joker. That's just kind of how I view it, just with the ease and how, Embiid looks a little bit quicker. He looks a little bit quicker with his movements. Now, Joker's very methodical with how he's doing things. So, you gotta kind of you put that into the equation with how he's going to guard, how Embiid's going to guard Joker, but Joker just doesn't look as quick defensively. If they were to guard each other, I think it would be more of a problem with Joker guarding Embiid. Now, sometimes they just kind of half guard because they don't want to get early fouls, especially with the way games are officiated. So I don't know. Round 2, I believe, will be next week or a week or two. So we'll get to see. Hopefully, Embiid isn't hurt and he plays up there in Denver, because last year he torched Joker in Philly, and then he didn't play against Joker in Denver. So hopefully he plays, because we want to see, if Joker's going to respond, because Joker, he had 25 and something, I think 25 and 12, something like that. Embiid had 41 and quite a few assists. I don't remember the stat line, but Embiid was he was the best player on the floor. So I would love to see more of guarding each other. You're the best, I'm the best. Let's guard each other, and we talk trash as we doing it. But I get it. So we'll see how the rest of the season pans out. We'll see how the next game pans out when they play in Denver. All right. Next, I'm gonna go into it's getting close to the trade deadline for the NBA. And there are quite a few teams that, they're talking about, hey, this team, we got to get this player. We need to trade these players for this player. Let's see, the Warriors, Lakers, and Philly, and the Suns, they all kind of need help. Now, Philly would technically need a third star per se, or a guy who could knock down shots stretch the floor. They haven't had that consistently. Now, Tobias Harris is technically a third, a third tier, not third tier, but a third scorer. He could average over 20 something points. He hasn't been consistent. And I don't know if he ever will be a consistent guy where he's going to give you 20 to 25 points a game, and let Embid and Maxey carry the load. But if he does, there's your third scorer. I think they don't have as good a shooting around Embid as they need to stretch the floor sometimes. But, we'll see. We'll see if they get one. The Suns. I think the Suns probably got all the scoring they need. I think they need, a couple of defensive players, guys who can just lock up and defend, because when you're watching them defensively, there are holes. Okay, Booker plays defense, but he's not known as a defensive player. Kevin Durant plays defense, but he's not known as a defensive player. Bradley Beal plays defense, but he's not known as a defensive player. So when you have more than one guy on the floor that's not really known to play D, you have to kind of scheme to hide certain players. Like Golden State with like Steph, he's not a defensive player, but he plays D, right? So, but there are times where they're able to scheme to kind of hide Steph, because at the time you had 4 of the strong defensive players. So you need a good, 1 or 2 good long wings that can defend their best player, that can take the pressure off of those guys to guard the other guy's best player on a night in, night out basis, right? It helps. You obviously need to have other guys who can knock down shots, because when there's 2 of them in there, it kind of makes it difficult when their kind of defenses are loading up on them. But when all 3 are out there, it's really hard. So I'm not sold on Booker being a point guard, but he has really been impressive, trying to lead the show. And they all can run the point. But like I said last week, you got to have somebody that's a decision maker with like, no, we're going to run this set. Hey, I see this. We're going to do this. And not so much do it to get themselves a shot, but it's that selfless attitude. So I'll be interested to see, because, I know I sometimes say this and this, but hey, it's sports. You know how to figure it out. The Lakers, they are an enigma wrapped into a question mark. No, they look good at the end of the season. They look good going into the season, in-season tournament, but they have holes. Like I've always said, you really shouldn't have a point guard, because LeBron's going to run point. And most of the time he still has the ball. And you trust him with the ball than other guards. So, why not surround him with a couple of, 2 or 3 shooters that can, defend but shoot. You have a lot of length, but I think they need more spacing with more guys that can shoot. So I don't know if there are any one of those going to make trades. I know that those 3 teams and some other teams have been kind of hot. There are other teams that are looking at making trades, but they're not making trades based on, oh my God, if we make this trade, we're going to be, the team to beat. Warriors, they need to make a trade just because I think it's time to move into a different era or different phase, because you're holding on, and they've held. I've said it for years. They've held on too long, and they didn't start to build for the future. They held on too long. I know it was, hey, I think the owner once said, we're light years ahead of everybody. Well, now they're light years behind everybody, because they don't have the size. Teams have gotten big. They don't have the firepower. It used to be, hey man, Steph and Clay, they put too much time on them, and other guys were hurting you with backdoor cuts and stuff. Now they defend it pretty well. Clay, for all as great as he is a shooter, Clay is not known to create shots for himself. You can't give him the ball and he's going to be able to make a move. He can free himself up sometimes, but a lot of times he's passing that ball because he likes to come off screens and stuff. And that's great, but if you're going to be that guy, you got to have handles to be able to get into a second or third counter move sometimes. Steph is the only one that can do that, and they rely too heavily on him, and he shoots a lot more than I think he should at times, right? And you want him to be aggressive and hunt for his shots, but, sometimes I've seen him take shots and not pass it to the open guy, which is what they used to do. Part of it's probably because he doesn't maybe have confidence in some of these guys that are shooting. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I'm so interested to see what's going to happen with all three of those teams because those youngins are coming. Those youngins are coming. All right, let me touch on the NFL real quick. Got the playoffs. You got Texans. Texans is up playing the Ravens. I think Lamar is going to, finally get his first win, and I think this is his best chance to get to the Super Bowl. So they're my pick, although that Bills and Chiefs games will be intriguing. Here we go again with them too. I see Buffalo winning this for some reason. I think this is the year that they're going to get past Kansas City and then set up a AFC championship game against Baltimore. On the NFC side, the Packers looked great last year, giving it to the Cowboys, which was just one of those things where it's kind of a shock, but it's kind of been their MO. So you're surprised, but you're not. It's like, you kind of figured Dallas would lose the way they lose. So I don't know what's going to happen with them, but Green Bay's going to have their hands full with San Francisco because of the way they play and how they play offensively. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can stop, if they can slow San Francisco down. I love what Green Bay's doing. They look really good, but this is not Dallas. So I'm looking. I think San Francisco's going to win that game. I think Detroit's going to beat Tampa Bay. But I could very well see Tampa Bay winning. But I think the strength of Tampa Bay or the weakness of Tampa Bay kind of plays into Detroit with Detroit's defense. So we'll see how that plans out. And then, for the Super Bowl, I got Baltimore and San Francisco, but we'll see how that goes. Okay. Having said all of that, I do have a bone to pick with people. Okay. All right. So the NFL puts out the playoff schedule, and Peacock is going to stream a playoff game. And the game they get to stream was the Chiefs and Dolphins, which was going to be a very anticipated game because you had Dolphins playing in cold weather, but you had Tyreek Hill going back against his old team. So, there's a little bit of history there. They're not fond of each other. They respect each other, but not really fond of one another with how it ended. And they put it on there. So, it was an uproar. People were coming out, hey, you know what, that's messed up, and, people should boycott. And I just said, you know what, that is kind of messed up that you would put a playoff game on a streaming service, right? I get the whole testing, but, not the playoffs. Put the playoffs on the regular TV like they've always been. Now, if you're going to announce it like the next year playoff games are going to be streaming on these services, you announce it early, then everybody, can have an opportunity to do it. Like Amazon did Thursday night. Used to be NFL Network, but now it's Amazon. So you knew it, and if you wanted to see it, you had Amazon, right? So I decided I wasn't going to watch it. I said, well, you know what? I'll just find something else to do. I watched NBA. I was doing stuff business-wise. I was going to watch a movie, but didn't get a chance to do that. And then all of this outcry and people being upset, and then I'm figuring, I even put it on Facebook. I wonder what's going to be colder. The temperature at the Chiefs games, which was supposed to be minus 10 or something, or the ratings for the Peacock streaming service. Well, NBC comes out and says highest stream, game or something ever at 23 million viewers, right? So they didn't suffer. They had, it was successful. Now, I was wrong. I thought they wouldn't have as many. I thought people were going to tune it out. But then you got to understand, people will complain, but most people, they complain about stuff, but they turn around and pay for it or do it. So I was disappointed in us because I figured, hey, you know what? Send a message. Don't watch that game. They'll learn their lesson. Well, now the NFL gets their money, but maybe the next streaming service is a little bit wary about paying for something, knowing that if people turn their back on them, they've just lost all of that money in advertising and all the stuff that they were doing, right? But then my question started to be, and I don't know if I ever get that, is how many viewers did they add? Because they have lots of viewers anyway. So there are lots of people who had Peacock, going into the, before the NFL's season and stuff, because there's certain shows that they put on Peacock. So if you're a NBC type person and you like a lot of NBC shows, you're going to watch Peacock. If you, CBS type person, you're going to watch whatever streaming service there is. So there are different ways that you consume everything just based on the habits and stuff that you watch. So, like, if there were already 20 million people who already stream Peacock and they had a view of 23 million, that just really means you got 3 million people to pay for that 1 month. That's not really, it's a big deal, but you had people who are already paying for probably, since Peacock started. So, but I don't know if they'll ever, because I was looking for it. I don't know if they'll ever put out those numbers. But in any case, you know what? You stand on it. I didn't boycott it. I just said, you know what? I choose not to watch it because I think it was kind of messed up that you did it at the end. And with everybody having their streaming services, look, I tell you what. There's a TV I have. It's a Google TV. The thing I love about it is all the apps on there. When you press into a show, you don't have to log out, log in, and it takes forever. I can go from a YouTube show to a show on Hulu almost as fast as I can if I'm watching it from cable. It's not that fast, but it's almost fast from like flipping channels. So I really like that, but having all those different apps, you gotta log out, then you gotta go back to this one and stuff, and then find it. So I don't like to have as many streaming services, but I get what Peacock is doing. I ain't mad at them. I just figure why do a playoff game? But hey, I'll be prepared for it next year, and if I decide to do it, I'll do it. But hey, for people out there, if y'all complaining, don't complain and then turn around and go buy it. That's kind of what I felt like people were doing. But who knows? Maybe the people who complained didn't watch it. All right, last thing is is it me or is there a definite referee problem everywhere? And I'm talking about not just basketball. I'm talking about football as well. There's been a lot of bad reffing in professional sports. There's been a lot of bad reffing in the collegiate sports. And obviously in the lower level, yeah. I'm wondering how they're... Look, you can't fix it. And like I said, I'm okay with when I say I'm okay with a bad call, I don't mean I like bad calls. I'm just saying if it's a bad call, you saw it one way, you were in position, you were watching it, and you made a call that you thought was correct and you stand on it, all right. I mean, video will come out later and see it might have been an incorrect call, but I get it. But what bothers me is referees being out of position and then either making a call that wasn't there or not making a call that was there. Jason Tatum got ejected. He went to the rim and he got whacked across the arm. It wasn't even close. And the referee didn't call it. Didn't call it at all. Goes down, then he gets a tech. He gets a tech from a different ref who kicks him out. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if you make the call, they can challenge it. Boston couldn't challenge it because the play was still going. Had the ball went out of bounds, maybe they try to challenge it. I don't know how that works, but they didn't challenge it. All right, so make the call, and then if it's not, then okay, hey, it's their ball. It was no contact. That's what you got to replay for. But that was too obvious. There were obvious holes in football. There were obvious pass interference in football. And you're wondering, why isn't the flag being thrown? Because it's where the referees are supposed to be. And they're not calling it. I'm kind of like, why not call it? And then you get together and say, hey, you know what, that wasn't, and pick it up. Even if it still was the wrong call, I guess I could understand that. There was a call in the NBA. Who was that playing? The Lakers. And I can't remember who they were playing off the top of my head. It'll come to me. But Anthony Davis gets a blocking foul. No, he gets a foul call on the person setting the screen. It was so obvious that it was Anthony Davis. It was a play-on situation. It was at the end of the game, and then he flopped on top of that. They reviewed it and came back and said it was a foul. Didn't understand it at all. Sometimes the language is different. Well, you know what? You can't have contact. But then it's, it was marginal contact. So is it marginal or is it no contact? You got to keep the language the same, because once you start to do different things, you get different results, and then people are frustrated because they don't understand. Players are going to adjust. If you're calling holding, and you tell them, hey, you're holding, you can't do that. When they're holding, they're going to get upset, but they know that they're holding. Right? If you hold or not on defense. You know what you're doing. You just try to get away with it. So I don't know what's going on, but I think after the season's over, there needs to really be some talk about, how things get better. Not fix it, because it'll never be fixed, but how do we alleviate some of the stress? Because some referees don't like you can't talk to them. You can't talk to them at all. I mean, could you imagine if the coaches and the players were yelling and screaming at the referees the way the football coaches do? Man, they get after them, and they rarely give them a pass. They rarely give them an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Referees, you take 2 words, and they taking you and probably ejecting you in the game. So I don't know. I think it needs to be a little bit more, conversation about how do we improve on stuff. The hardest part is very subjective. You got, you got different referees, or is it objective? Damn, is it subjective or objective? It's one of those. But what I'm saying is you have different referees who are different people, who think differently, who view and see things differently. Some see something, some don't. That's what you have to try to figure out how to do it, because you go by what the rules say. The rules should take over what you saw, and what, if the rules say that's not a foul, then it's not a foul, no matter how much you whine about it. If the rules say that's a foul, you gotta call that foul, or you gotta call that infraction, and not say, well, it wasn't an infraction because it wasn't that much, or at the end of the game, we're going to let the players decide. But the whole game you've been making this call, you got to call it. It's still the same call. Players got to adjust. And players panic, and they make, they do things because, they don't want to be the reason for something, but they end up being the reason that something happens. So I don't know. I don't know. And what do y'all think? Send me a message or something, a comment. Let me know what you guys think on the stuff that I talked about. But I think I'm saying we as if I'm on the board of NBA and NFL and college sports, but I think there needs to be some strong discussion about it and figuring out how, because I think we have the technology to be able to not spend 10 minutes looking at something. It should be a quick, like we see replay and it's like, oh yeah, that's this or that. Should be a quick look and go from there. All right, let me get on to my basketball ideology. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is driving angles you shouldn't take as guards or players. I'll say guards, but players as such. If you're penetrating down if you're penetrating from the 3-point line or the wing, and the defender is not on you, but they're kind of maybe 2 or 3 feet away, and you're going towards the basket and they're going towards the basket, that's usually a bad angle for you to go to the basket, and it usually ends up with a block shot because of the fact that it's hard to get to the basket without the contact there. Right now, if the defender is waiting for you, that's a little different because they're waiting for you. You're going to get there. You get there to your spot. You go up and shoot either a float or maybe you try to do a Euro. But when that defender is angling and meeting you kind of close, a lot of times that defender is going to win. So what I try to tell players is, when you're in that position, if you're not close enough to get into them, get a bump or clear space with that defender early, then you probably should be shooting a jump shot or maybe a jump stop floater. But going to the basket and now you're making contact around the low box area and you're getting ready to go up, especially if that defender's a little bit taller, maybe a little bit more athletic, it's going to be very difficult to get that shot up against them. And time again, even when you jump and try to get into their body and go up, you have to really be great with the contact and how you finish. But I would venture to say more times than not, you don't get those shots. I don't know if there's data on it, but every time I've seen it, it's never went well for the offensive player. So that would be my suggestion. And when I've explained it to players is, look, you have to understand the distance between you and them, and you have to assess it as such that, they're too far away. Going into them is going to look really obvious. And, you're going to take away the angle you have. You have to be close enough to them around the 3-point line as you're driving to the basket that you can start to get your hand into their body and have a touch on them. So now you can kind of fend them off. But yeah, certain drive angles, it's usually that like let's say the layup line, when you're doing the layup line from the wings and you're driving, that's usually the angle I'm talking about. If you're at the layup line, if you're on the 3 on the wing and the defender's like, let's say the elbow, free throw line extended elbow, and you're driving and they're going, it's really hard to get there and get a good quality layup shot. So you want to, get a little pull-up jump shot, maybe a jump stop floater, maybe a 6 or 7 foot, pull-up bank shot, 8 or 9 foot pull-up bank shot off the backboard or something like that. But yeah, you got to try different things. Don't just try to keep doing the same thing over and over. Next thing is, my question is, well, it's not really a question, but it's why it's important to be comfortable dribbling on a 1-2 step going both ways to shoot. Now, when I'm working with athletes and I'm showing them, different shooting drills, I have to explain to them that when they're going right, there's, it's going to feel a certain type of way. You got to turn your body a certain type of way if you're driving to pull up jump shot. When you're driving left, it's going to feel a certain type of way when you're driving. Now, if you're going to go into a 1-2 step, it's even more, I don't want to say complicated, but it's more of something that you have to work on. Because traditionally, if I'm driving right and I go 1-2 and I'm a right-hand shooter, it's usually going to be left-right. Okay? If I'm driving left, it's usually going to be right-left shooting. Okay? Now, you can absolutely train yourself to go right-left going both ways. You can do it. I've seen guys who only do one left-right going either way, or right-left going either way, or they do jump stop either way. I try to teach balance, but obviously I want the kids to be comfortable. But what I'm getting at is you have to be comfortable going into this, because if you're a right-hand shooter going left, you have to make sure that you're turning your hips a little bit more because you're going, you're having an angle a little bit more towards the basket, which is going to be on your right side. When you're driving right, you're naturally going to be kind of in that position. There's a little angling as well, but sometimes it doesn't feel as much. So it's important to have your footwork 1-2, whether it's left, right, right, left, going right or left. I try to teach, athletes when you're going right, you might want to go left, right. When you're going left, you might want to go right, left. It seems to make it a little easier. I've had kids that are athletes rather that when they go right, we go left, right, 1-2. But when they go left, we work on the jump stop because they really have a hard time with that footwork. And it doesn't mean they can never do it, but at the time, and it's about making them feel comfortable because I want them to be able to, do it in a game. So you have to be comfortable and you have to kind of figure out, because if you're constantly changing your footwork and you don't have elite footwork, it's going to bother your shot. You're going to be thinking about it. It's not going to feel comfortable. You're going to be thinking about it as you're going to your shot and you miss. Now you're all in your head about it. So you want to make sure that you have a system and you have to be comfortable. So for those of you who are working on it, try, if you're driving right, try left, right when you pull up your jump shots. Or you're going, left, try right, left. Now, there are a lot of different things that go into it. It's when you bounce the ball. When I'm teaching basic foot movement, if you're going right, I want to bounce the ball on my left foot with my left step, and then I go right, left. And then on the left side is bouncing it with my left hand on my right foot, and then I go left, right. So that's kind of the opposite of what I just told you when it's beginning. But if you're learning to dribble and you're not timing the dribble with each foot, you can do it left, right, going to each side. So it really starts to be a comfort thing, because I've taught, like lots of athletes, and not everybody likes the same. There are some who they do the hop and that's all they want to do, and we're okay with that, because the only thing with the hop is just making sure that they're not taking a long time to shoot. They get to their spot, they get their feet set, and as they're getting their feet set, they get their shot up. So it's really important about being comfortable. So I'm hoping that helps some kids who were kind of, trying to figure out, or athletes who were trying to figure out which is the best way. It's really what you feel most comfortable with, but you have to be able to get comfortable going both ways, because you are going to be going around the screen going left, and you're going to be going around the screen going right. Whether you're right-handed or left-handed, you got to have balance. Okay, next is, what is a bad shot? Now, I will say everyone has taken a bad shot at least once in their career. It's safe to say everybody's taken more if they've played a lot longer, but everybody's taken a bad shot here and now. Now, what's a bad shot? To me, a bad shot is a shot that you maybe kind of rush into that you probably don't normally take. So what is a shot that you normally don't take? If you normally don't take a contested three, that's probably a bad shot, right? So you don't want to take those shots. If you normally don't do a 2 or 3 dribble step back pump fake shot, that's a bad shot. If you're taking a shot where you're making a move and you have 3 defenders on you as you're getting ready to go up, that's a bad shot. Now, there are some that could take bad shots. They call them bad shot takers, but they're also bad shot makers. They make tough shots like that. Kobe was one that took tons of bad shots, but they were good shots for him in the fact that he practiced those things. And he hit some. I don't know what his percentages were. There are some that say he was low percentage field goal shooter, especially in certain situations. But when it came down to him, he hit them when he needed to, right? So Do you want to take bad shots? Sometimes you take them and you're anticipating that you're going to get a shot. And as you're getting ready to go up to shoot, you realize that you probably shouldn't have taken that shot. And, it happens. What we want to stay away from is continually taking bad shots. If you are a mid-range pull-up shooter or layup guy or girl, and you're coming down pulling up a 27 to 30-foot three-pointer, and that's not what you are, and you haven't really hit any shots that game, that's a bad shot. That's a bad shot. If you're catching the ball and you should be catching and swinging it to the corner to pass up a good shot for a great shot, and nobody's going to get in within 3 feet of the corner person if you pass it to them, but you shoot the ball and your shot's contested, not like really, really bad, but that hand is coming up. So when you release that ball, that hand is coming up. So it was a good contest. That would be considered a bad shot. We have to understand what bad shots are, because if we don't understand what bad shots are, people just keep taking them. When you watch, obviously when you're watching little kids and youth sports, boy, there are a lot of bad shots. They don't understand. They just get that thing up, shoot that ball, shoot it, little Timmy, shoot it, little Christy. I'm just throwing out names. I don't want anybody named Timmy or Christy to think I'm picking on them. I'm just those names that popped up in my head. I think we should have some actual names that we can choose from that aren't really names, that nobody's named after, so we can use those names when it comes to that and people not be offended. But in any case, you're going to see a lot of bad shots. As you get older and understand where you get your shots, then you should not have as many bad shots, because taking them can hurt your team. It can hurt other players. Coaches get frustrated. You could have had a chance to get a better shot. Maybe that other team is on a 8-0 run. You take a bad shot, they come down. Maybe they hit a 3, they get an and one, or just a regular layup. Now it's a 10-0 run, and now the momentum switch because you took a bad shot or two. So we have to recognize when we take bad shots, own it, and try to stay away from taking bad shots. Okay, stay away from taking bad shots. If you're not sure what a bad shot is, you can always reach out to me. I'll tell you what a bad shot is. I've seen them. Hell, I've taken a few here and there, and after I take them, I was like, oh, man, why did I shoot that, right? But some people really don't know that that's a bad shot. You could be looking like, dog, did you just shoot that? What, man? I was open. Like, man, did you just not realize that 4 defenders were around you and you're shooting up a pump fake, fade away, jackknife shot, and you got guys wide open over here? So, yeah, it happens. You got to be better from that, as a player. All right. Next and last, actually not next, but last thing I want to get into is, if you're on a team, what's your role on a team? You should ask yourself that. What role do I have on this team? If you have a role, play that role. Play it well. If your role is just to defend, rebound, set screens, knock down open shots, then do that. Don't try to do anything outside of that until you've mastered it and you can add it. But you have too many players, boy side, male side, and female side, that often try to do more than what they're supposed to be doing, and sometimes in critical moments, and cost their team a win. So know your role, know what you're supposed to be doing. You gotta ask yourself, man, am I the guy on this team, or am I the second or third option? Right? You should ask yourself that. What's my role? Okay, I'm not going to get as many shots, but I'm going to do this. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best at it. That's how I'm going to help the team. Because not everybody's going to be, the best player as far as scoring on the team. And that's part of the problem is I don't think enough teams have defined roles. I don't think some NBA teams have defined roles. Like when I watch the Clippers, my question is the Clippers is, well, who's your first option? Is it Harden? Is it Paul George? Is it Kawhi? Now I heard Paul George say the other night after he scored more points that Kawhi is the first option. But a lot of times when they're playing, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't, because if you're the best, if you're the first option, you usually touch that ball first. They play out of you throughout the offense or whatever. I don't see that with the Clippers. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, like, I don't know who, what the first option is, whose roles are defined. It's almost like, okay, it's my turn. I'm gonna get some buckets. Now they pass out of it. They're not they don't play selfish, but I don't see an offensive flow most of the time. They run offense, especially out of time, timeouts and stuff. But like it's mainly just screen and roll, and we're gonna make something out of it. Now, in saying that, my other question is it bad to be good very young? Okay. So reason I'm asking that is because I'm wondering if there's a lot of history of kids who were exceptional around an early age that still went on to be exceptional. So I had parents say, is it good that, that they're really good right now? And I say, yeah. I said, but you got to continue to develop, because there have been some kids that were really good early. They don't work on it. They don't continue to develop their game. They just, they were really good naturally, and they were maybe fast. They could maybe shoot, and they shot a lot of times. So they scored a lot of points. They could dribble a little bit. They weren't scared, really aggressive, and they were good. And then 2 or 3 years later, they're still doing the same things, and other kids have caught up. Some kids will adjust and find somebody that can help them continue to develop. Some will look to try to develop. Some will just keep doing what they're doing, and then they start to fall back. I would probably say maybe it's not good to be too good too early, unless you have proper surrounding, unless you have somebody who knows, hey, look, we're good now, and they can guide you and show you how, when other kids start to get as good as you, how you continue to evolve your game, because you really aren't trying to evolve your game based on someone else. You're evolving your game based on you, right? If you're a good jump shooter, now you need to add driving to the basket with a counter move or two. If you're a good driver, you need to add shooting, so you can be balanced. You start to show them IQ stuff where they can understand that. That's how you continue to evolve their game. I really can't answer that question as far as when is a good age, because everybody's different. There have been some kids that did. Hell, I think Pascal Siakam didn't really start playing basketball until his sophomore in high school or college or something like that. He picked it up late, and look where he's at. And then there are other players that were, prodigal phenom at age 2, right? At age 2, we knew they were going to be the next best thing, the way they were bouncing that basketball while they were holding their bottle in their mouth as they were drinking their bottle. So it's going to be different, but I think the most important thing with any player or athlete is that they continue to evolve, because you can become really good really quick, and then when everybody catches up, because it's going to happen. You're not going to be the best player just forever. Something's going to catch you. There's going to be some player that's going to be wanting to get better than you. Now, there are some players that, at the height, maybe they're the best at that time. And obviously, that's kind of how it happens, but you typically want to keep evolving your game because other players are catching up, but you don't evolve your game based on what they're doing. You evolve it based on what you're doing and what you need to get better at. You got to self-assess yourself. I'm not reading the screen correctly. I'm getting double teamed a lot. I need to understand when the double team is coming, and here are my outs with it. Whatever it is. I'm not picking up the play as fast as I need to. And because I'm not picking it up as fast, it's not allowing me to make quicker decisions, pre-reads as I'm catching the ball and making my move to either get myself a shot or my teammate a shot, or make that quick pass, right? So as you continue to evolve, then your game should evolve. Your game's only going to evolve so much at age 7, 8, 9, 10. I think as you start to get around 11, 12, 13, those are probably when you can start to really expand, because you're growing a little bit more. You're starting to play against the type of athletes that you're going to see on a regular basis. So that would be my suggestion with that. That would be my input as far as, knowing your role, as well as, is it good to be young or not? It's going to vary from kid to kid. It's really going to vary on them, how much they want to get better, all the other things. So hopefully that helps with understand, because that was a question that I was asked, and I kind of basically said what I was saying here. So hopefully that helps other parents out there that could be listening who has a child in that same situation. All right. Well, that's going to be all for today. I am excited. I have a showcase this weekend, so I'll be discussing it when I get back. Chad will be coming up from Phoenix. Hopefully he brings some of that warm weather. It's like 70s and stuff, and he posted, and I don't even like to look at it because it's 70. So hopefully, he gets down here, recognizes some talent like we know there is, and these kids get to really start to make a name for themselves. So I look forward to being a part of it this weekend. All right, so I'm going to end it like I always end it. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.